Behind me, you see red shirts and red sweaters and red scarves. Red for Ed, significant symbols of the investments that we need to make in education in North Carolina. These teachers and other school support personnel are here today to send a message. Our priority is that North Carolina's children are entitled to a sound basic education under our Constitution. We stand together today in solidarity. In July, I stood here with teachers Who should we be trying to help? How can a state budget make a real difference in people's lives? Do we want more corporate tax cuts, or do we want more investment in education? Those are the questions that I ask when weighing these many budgets that have been put upon my desk. I see the same problems with these bills that I saw with the budget that was sent to me in June. Is it better to sign into law more sweeping corporate tax breaks or give teachers a decent raise? Should I support hundreds of millions of dollars in pork or make real investments in school personnel, community colleges, and university employees and state retirees? All of these are getting less under these bills than other state employees. A budget clearly shows what you value, and these many budgets do not value our teachers. There is a way to show educators that we value them. We must negotiate a middle ground here. I've said this and I've written this many times, but let me say this one more time and to make sure I make it clear. I will negotiate these educator raises separate and apart from Medicaid expansion and other budget issues. There is no Medicaid ultimatum, and Republican leaders have clearly used this false premise to shortchange our teachers. Let's take 1 minute and look what these mini budgets I have actually do for this year. These raises have been talked about generally as raises over 2 years. Let's talk about what's going to happen this year. Some teachers would get an average raise of 2%. Some teachers would get nothing. School support personnel and community college employees, 1%. University employees, 0.5%. State retirees, 0.5% on a one-time basis. Teachers like the ones that stand here with me today can see through the smoke and mirrors. There is not an adequate pay rate anywhere in this legislation. It isn't even a cost of living adjustment. Let's stop the stubborn insistence on passing more corporate tax cuts. They are a wrong choice for families, especially those with a teacher as a breadwinner who has to pinch pennies and sometimes get second jobs to stretch their budgets. With our economy doing well and clearly the tax money available to do it, the men and women who serve as our teachers, our teacher assistants, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our custodians deserve a decent raise. They have earned it. There is still the time and the tax money available to find a middle ground. I stand here today willing to negotiate right now. The time for coming together to find a compromise on teacher raises has not passed. Legislators are coming back soon. I urge all of the legislators to ask their leaders for real negotiations on educator pay raises. Let's find a compromise that gives our students a lesson in civics, that negotiations and consensus are signs of leadership and strength and a key to good governing. I have vetoed these paltry pay raises and corporate tax cut bills so that we can start fresh with real negotiations. I'll be glad to answer your questions. There are 4, and we'll give you a press release on those.
In terms of negotiations, there haven't been any substantive conversations with you, Senate Leader or Speaker. And it seems at this point as though there are a lot of educators from kindergarten up to the community college system. There are a lot of people, I think 2 million, who are non-Medicaid, who are unsure about the kind of transformation that's going to take place and when. What would you say to those people who are effectively caught in the crosshairs of this morning?
Well, Medicaid expansion and what we're going to do with, Medicaid expansion and transformation are separate issues that we're talking about right now with the legislature. And I think we have to look at health care in a holistic way and discuss them in a holistic way. We're having negotiations about that. Secretary Cohen is talking with legislators about that. We're going to continue to work on that to try to get health care to all the people and to more to people. Every person deserves health care in North Carolina.
What would you say to the teachers who are caught in the crosshairs?
I think you can ask these teachers right here that the paltry pay raises that are in this legislation are not enough. But we can negotiate pay raises. I've been seeing press releases from Republican leadership that continue to inch up teacher pay raises. That's a good sign. And I think it shows that the capability is there to pay our teachers and other educators more. So I'm ready to talk about those things that they have been sending out in press release. Some of them sound like there's something that we can do.
This was only one of the demands that they had during the May 1st rally. Another one of those demands was the Medicaid part of all of this. But what do you say to teachers now that you're saying we're going to focus on the raises now instead of the Medicaid part of it? Because when I spoke to teachers in Durham, they said our students need to be taken care of too, not just us.
So yes, we want Medicaid expansion. And I'm still negotiating that as part of this overall budget that is still sitting there. We've got a big budget that cuts corporate taxes, that skims 4% off the top to put money in a SCIF that will hurt future pay raises and raises for state employees. It pours millions of dollars into unaccountable private school vouchers. That still hasn't happened yet, but neither has Medicaid expansion. And we want to make sure that we can negotiate something that moves our state forward, and we're going to continue to hold the veto on that until we do. But they have chosen to put a mini budget out, focusing on educator pay raises. And what I'm telling them is that, okay, we'll leave the Medicaid expansion negotiations with all of the rest of it, but we will separate that and negotiate these raises. They've even continued to talk about more raises for teachers. I saw Senator Berger's press release yesterday. It said 4.9% raise over the next 2 years for all teachers, and it said a $1,000 bonus for all teachers. And in that press release, I'm sure they weren't trying to fool the public in any way, but there were no conditions on that. In that press release, there was no condition that the veto be overridden. If they're telling the truth in that press release, I like that. I'm ready to talk about that as a settlement to this, in addition to more pay for school personnel and community colleges and universities that we're talking about. I don't think that's enough, mind you. I think, I'd proposed 9.1. And we've compromised at 8.5. But I think we're at a point now that we need to compromise in some middle ground. And I think that's something we should talk about. Yes, sir.
What do you say to teachers who say some is better than none?
Well, there doesn't have to be none. It doesn't have to be none.
Right now there is.
Well, they're offering more and more and more in the public. They're saying, all right, we can pay teachers instead of 3.9 that was in our budget, we can pay 4.4. And then yesterday they say we can pay 4.9. Clearly, they can provide our educators more money. They're talking about one-time bonuses. I'd rather put it all in the pay plan and make sure we attract and retain good teachers, but I'm willing to talk about those too. I mean, clearly they're ready to pay our educators more, and I know rank and file legislators are. Let's negotiate this in the mini budgets that you have sent to me. Let's negotiate this, but this is not adequate. And it's clear to me that legislators want to do this, and we shouldn't accept these paltry pay raises when we have an opportunity to do more. And I think that's why these teachers are here, because they know that most legislators, Republican and Democrat, want to do more. I've seen a 6.5% floating around with Republicans bringing it to Democrats saying, what about that? The leadership needs to find out what Republican rank and file legislators are talking about with other Democratic legislators. And we should not accept this when all of that potential is there. There's time to do it, and we need to step up and do it.
Just to be clear about what you said previously, so that proposal we saw from Senator Berger, is that something you would sign?
Well, he put in his press release a 4.9% pay raise for teachers. All teachers is what it said, and a $1,000 bonus for all teachers. I would want to negotiate. We've still got school personnel, community colleges, and universities. I don't think that amount is adequate, but I think that's something that I can live with teachers. They're ready to do that right now.
Did you have any meetings with Speaker Moore, Senator Berger at all coming up? I know Speaker Moore was saying last week, I don't think you guys have talked since the surprise vote in September.
I'm ready to talk at any time and have a compromise proposal on the table that is yet to be responded to, except through these press releases that have been coming. And I see a real potential for compromise. The press release that I saw did not put those pay raises contingent on overriding the budget. What I want to do is negotiate them separately. There is no Medicaid ultimatum. We're not going to bring the issue of Medicaid expansion into these education negotiations. And I think a lot of legislators who are there, Republican and Democrat, are ready to do that. This is so important, and we need to do this now.
Wouldn't this be another mini budget though? Do you want them to have the bill requiring?
I don't like mini budgets, but I'm telling you that I'm willing to do an educator mini budget on raising educator pay to the levels that we should.
What about the other state employee raises that haven't come through?
Well, there has been a state employee pay raise that deals with most state employees that has already passed and is in place. And what is significant about that is that these educator pay raises are less than the pay raise for other state employees. And that's not right. And particularly when we need more of an emphasis on public education than ever. So they've already started this process of negotiating things separately. So let's negotiate this. Let's find a place where we can be so we can move forward.
What about the non-instructional personnel?
Well, that's part of this negotiation. I mean, they really get shortchanged in this. And that's one of the reasons I'm vetoing this legislation, because it's not enough.
You're ready to chat and have a compromise. Is this incumbent upon you to make the first phone call or schedule a meeting? I mean, it seems like somebody needs to make the first step.
Well, like I said, I've had a compromise proposal out there. I believe that I will call these legislators, and I haven't received this offer that appeared in public from Senator Berger's office. So we don't know the details of it. But for teachers, although it's not adequate, it sounds like something that I can accept. And the press release did not say that it was contingent on overriding the main budget, which puts teachers in a hostage situation. I mean, they brought these mini budgets out. I'm ready to sign a mini budget. If it would have a teacher pay raise in it like that, I think that would be something that we could live with. I don't think it's adequate. We could live with that. But we also need to negotiate these other educators' raises as well, but the money is available there to do that. So, you know, we have a basis for compromise here, I think.
If you feel so strongly about that, why don't you go and call them right now and say, hey, let's meet, let's discuss this?
Well, I just read this press release last night. So, I mean, I think it's something. I'm believing. I'm going to take them at their word. I'm believing that this offer is not contingent on overriding the veto of the main budget, because it didn't say that in the press release. So I'm hoping this is opening up negotiations where we can make sure that our educators get paid more.
Would you be willing to make the first move, or are you just going to wait to see the budget?
I'll make the first move. How about that? I'll tell you right now, I'll make the first move. Because we have to do this. We really have to do this. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.